Disclaimer, this show is for educational purposes only and is not an alternative for clinical counseling. Please seek a mental health professional for your specific needs.
Hello, and welcome. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you in this space, and I hope that you will return to support our mission to bring mental health to the forefront and to show how everyday life affects our overall wellness. So, the question is, why do so many people dismiss men's mental health? Please share this video with a man that you know, because this episode today is powerful. My guest is reframing masculinity, sensitivity, and leadership. If you're raising boys, loving men, healing yourself, this is one episode that you don't want to miss. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to Intake Talk Show with your host, Bertha F. Barrett, licensed mental health counselor. Joining us today is writer, creative, and founder of The Boys House, Lawrence Rapier. Your Intake podcast will start momentarily, but first, let's shine a light on what's to come. We spoke to 3 creatives about the importance of men's mental health, especially in the Black community, different walks of life, different art forms, and powerful perspectives. This series will last 6 weeks, and every guest will have a part 1 and part 2 segment. Lawrence will be the focus of weeks 3 and 4. Get ready for raw and authentic conversations around masculinity and mental health, unspoken wounds, men's mental health through a creative lens. And now, your Intake podcast starts now.
Welcome back to Intake. I am Bertha Barrett, your host, and today I have with me Mr. Lawrence Rapier II. Lawrence has founded The Boys House. He's a writer, a visionary. He's written everything from blogs to short stories, screenplays to songs, even scientific manuscripts. The Boys House is an animation studio that focuses on alluring storytelling through compelling design and unique narrative. Whether it is commercials, a short story, an animated series, or full-length animated films, people connect with stories that inspire, stories that resonate, and stories that make you feel something. Strong storytelling is the bridge that connects us to history, information, and each other. Welcome, Lawrence.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So I have read this beautiful content about you, but why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Once again, my name is Lawrence Rapier. I worked in research for 16 years, and then I decided to shift and focus more on my passions, where like, why keep building these bridges and trying to squeeze in time when I can go directly to what I want to be doing, you know? And from there, I started screenwriting full time, and I started The Boys House, or The Boys. Now, it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing for me. And yeah, it's been a beautiful journey ever since. Sometimes trying at times. Yeah, I'm building there. I'm building, I've also partnered with Hype Plus, which is a digital media brand focused on like Black culture, and kind of building sponsorships and partnerships and future content and what that looks like, and kind of how to capture the attention of the people, you know?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Very creative. I love that. Okay. All right. So keeping with the title, we're still on men's mental health. Okay. And can you just tell me why you think most people don't take men's mental health seriously?
I think it's a multifold, but I think the biggest thing is the concept of masculinity.
Right.
Masculinity teaches us a lot, or I guess toxic masculinity
Yeah.
teaches that, men are meant to stand on your own, and you don't need anything. And that's just unrealistic, right? But when that's the goal, anything that falls short is kind of like becomes an issue. So even though we know that's unrealistic, so anytime you lean towards something, automatically it kind of feeds into itself, and it creates a bad dynamic in which you feel like you're out of place, or you're not masculine enough, or you're not strong enough. And I think that's the bigger thing, is that this idea that, men don't need any help. Men shouldn't resort to anyone else or talk to anyone about their problems. And then, from there, I think you asked the biggest question, or the biggest problem. I think that's the biggest one. But I could go on about other things that I think it feeds into.
Right. I do agree with you around this masculinity. So I raised 2 beautiful daughters, but I had nephews, and now I have a grandson. I have one brother, who's balanced quite a bit, and now he's balanced. Now he's balanced.
Sometimes it takes time.
Yeah, it takes time, right? Because he too, as most boys, were raised as stop crying, stop acting like a girl, right? And so men hold in these emotions and they're not allowed as boys to express. Because now I watch my little grandson and he is so emotional. I think he's more emotional than my granddaughter. He has a bundle of emotions.
Yeah.
And unless we know how to nurture these emotions, we will also teach him how to suppress. Right. And we will never do that. But I think that is the issue as men, because we have these roles. Yeah. Females are nurturing. And by the way, they say we're innately nurturing. That's a lie. We're taught how to be nurturing. Okay. As men are taught this toxic, thank you for that, toxic masculinity of suppressing emotions, not being able to express, thinking if they do that, they look feminine of sort, or they're acting like a girl. And so men just kind of hold in. But as human beings, we all have them. We have emotions, right? Yeah. And we need to know how to express those emotions. Right. So I think you're quite right in that sentiment where, how we're taught around these emotions based on these, gender identities, right? And that's key. So what I want to ask you is, what were some messages that you received as you were growing up as a male?
Revolving around mental health, or just in general with like how masculinity looks.
If you can answer both, that would be great.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think as you were even asking that, the best way I think to explain that is put things in perspective. My father is very old school, and he's so like I've never seen my father cry a day, never a day in his life. It didn't matter. I've seen him bust his hand open. I've seen his closer family die. I've never seen this man cry. And then whenever I was crying growing up, he would tell me like, cut it out. That's how the men do, right? And I'm giving this perspective not to villainize my father, but just to paint a picture, right? Because I am a father now, and I have 2 boys,
right?
And the way I raise my children is different, right? But I think putting this in perspective shows you the path that I had to find for myself, and kind of changing the narrative and changing the dynamics, right? So yeah, it was very much, and with that, I like that. My father, even now, he struggles to connect. You know what I'm saying? Because of that, like, sometimes I don't know if he's in tune with his own emotions, right? And it is a fine line. So I think growing up, that was my perspective. But and through that, I have this concept of like masculinity and what it means, and a lot of it I had to forge alone. Luckily for me, and unfortunately, when I was younger, people that know me know I'm very transparent. I'm very upfront. I'm very open. I'm going to be who I am.
Right. Right.
And that was not who my father was. So we clashed a lot growing up. And I'd listen to what he'd say, and I'd learn those things. One of the things I couldn't, I think it created a dynamic. I think for like a while, like even like crying made me feel like I was less of a man as a child. And anytime like the feelings would build up, I'd feel less of a man to cry. And so I learned when I was like preteen, early teen, I'd hide like at home when I cried. I never cry in public, right? And that's one of the things I think I had to kind of find my own way. But I think through that I had to learn like, oh, this is like with my children, I've never said that to them, but I do tell them there is, because we still live in this culture and that is still the norm in society. I tell them there's a way. Like, for instance, my youngest child is an empath, right? He can walk into a room and he'll instantly walk to you, be like, "Are you okay?"
Wow.
And like it's weird. Like, and people know, like they're like, "Yeah, how did you know I wasn't feeling okay?" And he's like, "It's okay," And he did that at 4 and 5. It was just,
Yeah.
and he's always caring about other people. And he's like, "Oh, it's okay, Dad. If that makes them happy," and I was like, "Okay," but there is still, real world applicability. And I try not to dim their light, as you said with your grandson. But I do try to show him, about showing a bit of strength and sometimes even not revealing your feelings. And I think that's the trait that it can become toxic.
Right.
It's like, it's almost like a strategy or like a game. You can't reveal that you're being hurt. Especially, sometimes like people do things on purpose to hurt you.
Right.
And if you're showing them that they're hurting you, then you're giving them exactly what they want. So I've had to walk this line and even like, teach my children. I was like, it's okay to feel what you feel. That's natural. That's okay. But there is a bit about it, about being a man and even seeing it through or identifying your emotions and even putting them to the side, right? One of the things I think sometimes is like struggling, like, is that knowing like you're feeling one way or that you're identifying with something, but having to how to like put it in a box and shift it to the side, right? I don't know. This it's the best example I think of this, or a recent example is so my children live with me, and unfortunately, sometimes people will kind of bait you like emotionally and try to get you riled into their emotions. And the one thing I've been trying to like teach is like, you can see and you can identify and you can understand why the person feels that way. And I had to tell them, I had to give my sons the example of, like, I love my mother, right? Love her very much. Sometimes she's emotional about something and she wants me to be emotional. But I can recognize that she's feeling away and identify that and say, okay, Mom, and be there and support her, but I don't have to feel what she's feeling. You know what I mean? And so I hope I'm not going too far with this, but
No, you're fine.
I think to me, that's that categorizing and being able to control your emotions that men really pride themselves in. And honestly, as a man, I pride myself on it. And I'm be honest, like sometimes I see men who aren't very good at that, and I feel like, oh, you're not you're not doing what you're supposed to do as a man, right? Because not to say like, I don't know. I guess that's just the honesty, but like I think there is a certain level. I think, even I think, and you could tell me, I feel as though like even women see like you want your man to be emotional with you and be there with you, but you don't want him to be overly emotional and can't, and can't control it and still be something that's productive. So anyway, that's that's that line. I think that's what I was kind of raised on. And this is like part of the path that I've had to carve along the way.
Okay. Yeah. That can be tricky too, because in society as a whole, in culture as a whole, right? In our beautiful culture, you see men as here, right? And I think I know that you're right. It's about balance. We're talking about knowing how to regulate your emotions, right? And even women don't need to know how to do that. Can we just be honest, right? And right, everyone should, right? Know how to regulate your emotions and not be drawn in by somebody else's emotions. Because that's where we get confused at. Oftentimes too, and I see this too often, where, somebody will do something, as you said, to draw you in, to upset you of sort. And I always tell people, you have to remember that you're in control of you, right? I can't control your emotions. You can't control mine.
Right.
Right. And with that truth, if I know how to control my emotions, regardless of what you do, I make the best decision for me. So we often say, man, they just piss me off. Did they really piss you off, or did you allow them to piss you off? You see, we're talking literally.
Yeah.
Like,
Say, have you been in my house? That's how like a conversation with my boys all the time. I'm like, did he? He made me mad.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's about learning that balance is key. But I think too with boys, my oldest daughter said it best with my nephew, because we always have these family talks, and we have these beautiful little people, that we're trying to raise as, as a village, right? And now we have this boy, and he has a dad, my son-in-law, bless his heart, I love him. But he too has that role about masculinity, because we were all conditioned in that way. And so we talk about this safe space, right? Remembering that even as this male who's going to go out in the world, people are going to see him a particular way, specifically as this beautiful brown-skinned male, okay? But his safe space should always be with us. And whatever he's feeling, he should be allowed to say that with us, right? He shouldn't have to push that away, any of that. We are his safe space. Now, when he go out into the world, he can't do that, okay? And some people are going to, judge him off of doing that. But always reassuring that he has a safe space, and we're his safe space. And I think that's what people get it confused at, because we're still raising boys the same way, right? Instead of allowing them to have a safe space to express their emotions, to talk about what they're feeling, and understand that we all have them. Men have feelings.
Yeah.
Men have emotions, right? And
they not always acknowledge.
Right? And they're beautiful. I always tell people, I think because we put them in these categories, we stigmatize everything.
Yeah.
We do good, bad, whatever. I don't like to see things black, white. We got to find a medium, right? And so I don't believe our emotions are bad. They may feel like they're bad sometimes, but they're good, because literally what they say is, hey, something is going on here. We need to, identify what's going on because we're feeling something, right? And that's a good thing, because we want to be aware of what's going on around me. Why am I feeling upset right now? We want to be able to do that. And I think that's where we're missing it. We're teaching our children that it's okay to feel your emotions, regardless of your gender.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we all have them.
Yeah.
And having a safe space, because the world will judge you regardless. Yeah. Because you are this masculine, whatever we put on this masculine person that we title it. We've all been conditioned, right? And you're right. Women don't want overly emotional men, but can I just say men don't want overly emotional women either?
That's very true.
Okay?
That's true.
Right.
We want to have a sane household. We need both people to have that balance.
That's right. And that requires, emotional balance, right?
Yeah.
Learning how to regulate your emotions.
Yes.
And I think that's where people miss it at. Okay. And we need to do better with that regarding men in general, and allowing them to have that space, including women.
I think the biggest, sometimes the determination, what kind of leans a little further for men is that, and I tell this to my boys as well, is that, a lot of times in a household, you live in this patriarchal society. And so people associate the men with the leadership, right? And so as a man and being a leader, and I tell them, like, how would you think if your dad was doing what you're doing? Right? Like I tell them all the time. So you see me regulate myself, right? Like I'm setting the tone for my household, right? So if I'm doing this, then I'm expecting my wife to do this, right? I'm expecting my children to do this, right? And I was like, if dad flew off the hinges every time something made him upset, or if dad did these things, even like sometimes when you see bad behavior from another family member, right? It's like, okay, like, do you see your father model, right? And so I think that's the thing is like, when both sexes and both genders encountering these things, and it's important for all humans, right? To have a balance. That's the thing about being right, is balancing your logic with your emotion. But I think why it tends to lean one way with men is because of that leadership role a bit. And then when men feel like, and I guess you already touched on, but when they feel like they can't rise up to that standard, it becomes this own like self deprecating thing,
Right. But can I be honest? Men are trained how to live in their ego.
How to live in their ego?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you mean by that?
I mean, when we tell a boy to don't show his emotions, when we teach a boy how to navigate with women, right? Ego. You know, a lot of boys are taught that, you know, man, just got to get you a girl and, you know, you can get any girl you want, you know, and you just puff them up, you know? Right. And so men are taught how to, you know, take care of the household, do all of this, be that leader, which is great, by the way. But when I say balance, we need to balance because the reality is sometimes, and I've learned this in life, sometimes as humans, while you're still the leader, especially in Western society, things can happen that will take away that ability for you to totally lead, specifically financially.
Okay.
And if you have a partner, a wife, and that wife is still able to carry the family, that should not bruise your ego.
No, it shouldn't.
Okay?
Correct.
And because men are taught in the ego, they're taught to be in their ego and always to be here and to always show that they can handle everything. It's like when things like that happen, now they're in their ego so much until now they become almost depressed and angry. Because when men get depressed, they become angry, right? It looks different for women.
I agree generally, yes.
Right, okay. So men are taught to be in their ego. But you have to balance because women have egos too. But again, women have taught how to stay on that feminine side too, right? How to be nurturing. Although we can be egocentric too.
Right.
But men are basically taught, little boys, how to be in the ego, right? Toughen up, do this. And
you're saying our ego is built around that?
Yes.
I agree. And like I shared with you, when I have the shortcomings, like it would bruise my ego. I feel like I was less of a person, less of a man. I'm not living up to a part. One of the things I thought was really, I remember one time I remember always constantly struggling with that because I am emotional. I am, you know, I'm a bit of an empath myself and I feel for people and I have a big heart. And I remember one time my mother wrote me a note and she said something about like your sensitivity is beautiful, right? And I kind of took it or whatever. And honestly, it wasn't until in my teenage years, my favorite artist was Tupac. And one time I was reading this note his mother had wrote him, and she talked about how beautiful his sensitivity was. And that made me reframe. I think that was a turning point for me because it made me reframe in my mind what sensitivity was and what it meant. Because all I was getting, my model for masculinity was my father, and he didn't show it.
Right.
Often, are you familiar with Star Trek? My father reminds me of Spock. I used to always call him Spock because he was strictly, I barely ever saw emotion from him unless it was anger. Right. And then there's always a logical thing, right? Like, this doesn't make sense. He's an engineer too. So, yeah, you know, he's like, oh, stop this, and it doesn't, you know, make sense. But I wasn't that. I'm not Spock. I'm an artist. You know what I'm saying? You know, right. To me, and so anyway, having those, I think that turning point, like learning to appreciate my sensitivity, allowed me to start seeing it as a gift. And that started a whole nother journey for me. Right? It's like learning, like, oh, this is why I can connect with people. You know, and mind you, that took some time. Right. But I think changing that and changing just my mother saying that and then seeing that, you know, mirrored by my favorite, you know, person I looked up to, even though he had already passed at that point, but and his mother had something similar. I started to realize, okay, I can identify it as someone that was like someone I looked up to. And then see, like, that was his gift, was that, you know, him being sensitive and being able to touch in, he could feel what other people are feeling, and he can display that in art. He can display that in his acting, stuff like that. And I think as an actor myself, especially at that time, it's like, I realized, oh, this is how I tap in. So anyway, I think with that balance is, like you said, yeah, putting things into framework, putting things into perspective, and not necessarily seeing it as a bad thing. I growing up, I was very nurturing. Like I was raised in a house of mostly women, right? Almost all women. Even my mother's family was almost all women. And so, like, I have what people might deem as like typical, like, oh, these are feminine traits. But I think of it that way. Like, I'm very nurturing. My children, when they were babies, like I was taking care. I knew how to take care of the babies, you know, and I've always loved small children. But I think, like, identifying that, like, it feeds, like, to me, it feeds my ego when I can because now my kids just have me, right? They live with me most of the time. They go see their mothers on the summer and sometimes vacate on holidays. But being able to be both, to be able to be nurturing and then still be that firm masculine presence to help teach them that your emotions are okay and demonstrate that. To me, that's where I build my ego off of now, right? Sometimes I do get depressed. I do experience these things, but I pride myself. I'm like, hey, yeah, things are not, you're not making the money you used to make right now, but you're still showing up for your children every day. You're still keeping a balanced head. You know what I mean? You're still, look at how you helped your son overcome his obstacle last week at school and people talking about him and things like that. So yeah, I can see what you're saying with things being like built off our ego, but you can reprogram that, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's the key is how, because like you said, everybody has an ego, but I think programming that in a healthy way and even identifying when something is an ego versus actually beneficial. Like I point out to my oldest all the time, like, oh, it's just ego. Like you're concerned about other people seeing you or what other people think or how you want to feel. But what's the reality of the situation and what actually matters?
Right. And there is a balance, and we have to find the balance.
Yeah.
Because part of that ego, too, is, again, because we live in a world where men rule, right? And I think we need to redefine what leadership looks like, right? So that when things like this happen, when you feel like, well, I'm not making what I used to make and all of that, it doesn't impact you in a way, because women go through it too. Can I be honest with you? Yeah. Like, let me not make enough money. And I'm like, oh man, I'm not making enough. Like, I need to make sure my household is balanced and all of that. Right. But I'm not getting deeply depressed over it. Right. Yeah. Because I got a whole man in the house with me and he got to handle his part too. Right. And so there's a balance. But with men, it's like, no, I got to have the whole load. Right. And that's the thing. We need to redefine leadership because what I've noticed, and it's regardless of race. Can I just be honest when it comes to men, is that men have so much on their shoulders. And if you don't have that balance, it feels like you're carrying the world, specifically African-American men. Right. It feels like you're carrying the world on. And so when a little thing happened, like, okay, loss of jobs, because that's happening a lot these days, right? Yeah. It feels like you're not the man in the house. No, you're still the man in the house because you're still needed. You're still needed as that leader, that nurturer, because leadership is just not paying bills. Can we just be honest? That's not leadership at all. No, hello. Thank you. But it means being the example for the family, knowing how to lead. And that means leading too on how to communicate, how you're feeling, your emotions, your thoughts, all of that, because then that strengthens the family. It strengthens the relationship. Yeah. Okay, so that's what we need to do. We need to balance out some of these terms that we have and how we look at them, maybe re-examine. I'm big on this because we have so many different things we need to balance out as human beings. That's really messing all of us up. We'll be right back. If you are a professional or someone with a story and would like to be a guest on the show, go to our website, intaketalkshow.com, and complete the form to be a guest. Perhaps you are someone with a question or comment that you would like addressed on the show. Again, go to our website, intaketalkshow.com, and complete the contact form. I hope to see you soon. And remember to continue to talk about mental health and how to make yours a priority.
This concludes our interview with Lawrence. Did you enjoy this episode? We'd love to hear from you. Leave your comments and feedback on our YouTube channel or Facebook page. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on your favorite podcast platforms so you never miss an episode. Next week, we'll continue our conversation with the Boys House founder and artist, Lawrence Rapier, as we move into week 4 of our Men's Mental Health series. Thank you for watching and listening.